Hey, let's dive into what a model context protocol or a MCP is. And what we can see is it's pretty much a standardized way that AIs can talk to each other. So all it is it's saying that, hey, instead of building all the logic into one giant file, how about we have each of these servers kind of handle their own instance, handle their own tools, handle their own capabilities, almost like an agent or a person who has tools, and that tool can be like access to a data source or calling a function. So that is more or less the idea, and we're going to have clients and we're going to have servers. Okay, so we're going to exit out of that. I do know that this GitHub has a little bit of starting code, and so we're going to start with that. Now, in the client side, there's two different versions. You can just think of one of them being a little bit more of a dev and one of them being a little bit more production. And the dev allows communication on our own computer. And what's cool is it starts up the server on its own. So I already do have a file down here, and we're actually just going to name it the exact same thing of stdio. And that means standard input and output. And we also are going to grab the server. So this is pretty cool. Uh, and we're also going to add a .end variable. I'll do open AI API key here, and I will go and grab. Great. And so I've loaded up my end.env, which has my API keys, and now I have the client, and now I'm going to add the server. And so in the server code, we're just taking some boilerplate, very simple, and we're just going to show that this is kind of this is working. So let's move. Can I move this? Sure. Okay, let's look at a new terminal, and the new terminal is saying, great, we have a tool within our server, and what's cool about these standard input output is my server will start when I call my client. So while I could start the server directly, I can do easier testing from here. Um, let's just make sure we're in the right. Great. So we executed, and all this did was it asked the server saying, hey, can you tell me about all the tools that you have? And then, hey, I'm actually going to call one of your tools. So first it just asks, hey, can you get the connection to the server? So we get the connection to the server and we list all the tools, we print all the tools, and we say, okay, great, we do have a tool that we can use. Let's just call that tool. And this is the whole idea within the model context protocol. All it's saying is almost like within Bitcoin, where you need to make an API key on one side, then you go to the other side and you say, hey, handshake, are we verified? This is kind of the same thing. This is, hey, with a connection to the server, and then this says with a connection back, we then from the client can start up some of the code within the server, and then we can say, hey, what tools do you have? And then this is the step forward out of a normal API. It's the idea that it can self uh, verify what is the current tools. And so just to show that we can do this in a slightly different way, um, we just add all of these together, server, and add two numbers together. Let's call this again. And it adds us in. And then what if we say we actually want to multiply? So let's just add another tool. And we're going to call this mult. And we're going to just multiply these two together. So now if we call our client, we will see both of those listed, but it's not actually doing the calling. So this is actually calling that tool. So calling that tool is right here. And so we could say, let's just actually do this again, but call tool called mult. We're going to pass in the parameters of 2 and 3 that we're going to do just to show. And this is going to be result is going to be the result of this tool calling. And we want to put it out here. So let's just run that one more time just to kind of show the main idea. Oh, that's why. Sorry. Client. Okay. So now we are calling both tools. Great. Now let's go to our actual example. And our actual example is we're going to use the idea of an MCP server that somebody else has already built. So that way we don't have to do it. So say GitHub, yfinance, MCP server. Sure, we'll go with this one. This is where we can add a lot more interesting ideas. But we're going to come in first. We're just going to take their server, and it does look like they're importing a bunch of types. That's fine. We'll also import that. So we're just going to come in here. We're going to copy and paste. Um, great. And let's also get all of these types. Yeah, this seems to be referencing these. All right, so I had to take a quick moment and verify this is all importing correctly. I just did a small thing here, but now we're going to check. So our client still wants to call these same tools, but I'm actually going to remove those and I'm going to add different calls. So we have get ticker info, search, and get price history, and just get price history. So this is a tool. Notice that this is not using, let's say, AI. All this is doing is saying, hey, I want to use a specific tool, and that tool is being called out by session, call tool, price history. But now if we run our client, we're going to run it with the server that we got from somebody else. And we can see that we do actually have these new these new tools and tool access. And just to show that that is working, do this one more time. So, yep, we're calling for Apple. We are searching Tesla, and we are getting the price history here. Great. Now let's expand upon this and maybe make this a little bit more interesting. And to do that, let's maybe deal with options and a command line. So say client stdio options, and say great. And in my server, let's come in and let's add a new tool. Um, let's say that we want to. I'm going to skip this and I'm going to hop in after I finished. Okay, so I have two or three things in here. I have get options chain, get options expiration, and get top volume options. So if we come back to here, which is our one that we had before, we're just going to make sure that we can see all of the tools. So we're going to run this again, and we want to see that we have access to that tool. So it looks like it did not pop in. So let's try that one more time. And that's because we didn't save. All right. So now we saved our server. And this is a good little lesson of every time we update our server, we will automatically be able to have all of the new pieces within it. So if we wanted to then say get options chains or chain, we could come back to here and we could say use the get options chain as a tool call, just to show you that we can directly call it at any time. So one more time here, we go here and get option chain. So just to make that a little bit more clear, we're not going to print our available tools, and we're just going to print the option chain. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We're starting to get somewhere, maybe somewhere that's a little bit more useful. It's maybe ran into an error here, but we're not going to worry about that quite yet. And actually, this was bothering me, so let's just fix that. So I said error, it went through its changes, we'll accept all, and we're gonna check again. And so yes, we are getting calls, option chain here. It seems like it's getting truncated, and that is because we are only printing here. So let's actually print the entire thing. I'll just run that again. So now we're getting all of that option data, and maybe we can use that for something else, which is going to be our next step. And our next step will be kind of knowing how to better handle not just sending directly, but actually using it via like a command line or chat interface. So I do know that this guy has a little bit more code that we can use. And this is interesting because, yep, it connects to server, it gets tools, but this is the main one that we're kind of curious about now. So this is saying process query. And really, all this is doing the same thing, get tools. After we get tools, we're going to throw those tools into the chat completion where the message is the query. The query comes from process query. Query being like, what's the last thing that you said? And to choice auto, this comes with the OpenAI client, and that is up here OpenAI. So what that is doing is saying, hey, if you do need to use a tool, then use the tool. And if there are any tools, then call the tool. And then if there is a response, add that and then make a final response and then give that. So, and then if there's no tools at all, just respond. So this is the idea of processing the query, doing a little bit of work up front to see whether or not we want to use more tools. And so let's give this a roll. We'll bring this in. And we're just going to clean this up a little bit. We're going to remove, um, all right, yeah, let's just give it a try. So we just dropped in new code. It's going to be working with our server. The server takes a look, um, and we are just adjusting some existing code, simplify it. We connect to server. At the end of connecting the server, we clean up our resources. And overall, we're getting pretty much all the same things. But we have a slightly different way of going about it, such that we connect to server, and then we need to process queries. And the query can come in. So let's add the ability to use process query. And to process the query, we're just going to come into our bottom main and we're going to say, make this like a command chat application. For any very simple chat inputs, use regex to respond with pre-formatted responses. Otherwise, if we need to use our MCP yfinance server, then route it accordingly. Great. So now it's creating a small little chat interface such that we can always have input. And so now when we run this, instead of just getting a printout and then stopping, we are going to run this again, and we should have a small command line. And now we can say, hi, great, hello. Yep, it's giving the same thing. And a lot of these should be kind of pre-formatted. So how can I assist? I'm sure that's kind of in here somewhere. So now let's do something a little bit more interesting. Let's now ask it about Apple. And this is hopefully um, where it gets a little bit more useful. So this was perfect. This is exactly what we wanted to see. So what it did is it called a tool. And actually, we don't know that it's kind of calling tools. So maybe let's go into our server or here and let's ask it to tell us when we're processing or not processing a tool. And so I wrote this out. When we use a tool, state that we're using a tool and color it differently. And while that's loading in here, let's just also say we want our router to also help us out. And in the other one, we have use colorama. And I wanted to just state where it's going to be routing to when we talk to it. Great. And then we have this all accepted. So let's now test this out. Great. So now we can say hello, and it says lower level pattern detected. No tools or anything are called. What tools do we have access to? And we should maybe get something similar to up here. Routing. It's going to the MCP server, and it's pretty much calling list tools. Okay, great. Now let's say um, we don't actually have to be that precise. We can say get the option chain, and it's going to say, great, we're calling a tool get options chain, which is going to fetch the option chain data, and it's going to load it all in here. So now we have all the puts and calls for Apple. And what's cool is we're getting this from a chat line interface. So just to verify, get option chain for Tesla. And we just want to verify. So the top is for puts 95, just to show that it is fetching real live data. And we can do one other verification right after this. It's taking a little moment. Bear with me. Great. And here it has now popped in. This is the option chain. A little interesting that it's coming in a different form. Um, it looks like it might be calling it slightly differently, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now. So we have the ability to get option chains. And let's just verify, get the prices for Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, NVIDIA. Great. So this is the power right here. It is doing one command, and then all of these LLM hops or extra calls to tools are all taken care of on their own. So now we can get all of Apple, Tesla, or any stock, and we're using a free tool of yfinance to fetch all of this data. And so now let's take that same idea. We want to get the prices and pay attention to the last 3 periods and calculate the highest rate of change of positive momentum. So now it's like a RAG retrieval system where we are going to go fetch, and now it's returning NVIDIA has the highest positive momentum with a rate of change. And we can verify what are the prices, 12, so 16. This is for NVIDIA, open, high, low, close, 135, 4. NVIDIA stock, 135, 4. So this is getting real life up-to-date data. And my idea here is now we can say, looking at the last 10 days of all of the, I'll just give it very explicit. So I'm not sure it has chat memory right now. Looking at the last 10 days of all of the, I guess it doesn't matter, Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, NVIDIA, calculate market regime in terms of bullish, bearish, or neutral, or crisis. All right. So I'm not even getting this. Uh, Okay, so there was a small error here, but that kind of makes sense. I'm not really prompting it great. So let's just try this again. Um, we're going to say looking at the last, looking at the daily close prices, the last 10 periods for Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, and NVIDIA, determine the market state regime by bucketing the output to one of the following choices. And that would be very bullish, bullish, bearish, very bearish. Um, all right. And let's just see what happens. So daily close prices. Um, All right, and this is the troubleshooting. So I had a little bit of trouble kind of figuring out that it wants to use a specific parameter. So it's saying 1 day, 5 days. They kept on reading 10 days. So I'm forcing it a little bit more clearly to say, fetch daily close prices for these stocks, determine the market state using that, and bucket it into here. Great. Now, this is the power, so to speak. So it's doing all of these tool calls behind the scenes. So our initial request doesn't need to be too smart or know what tools it needs. It will then call each of those tools. It will use those as context. It will do analysis, and then it's going to figure out, great. Some of them are showing very bullish, bullish, and then all of these things leads towards bullish to very bullish, according to these price movements of the last few days of these stocks. So we're going to end it there, 20 minutes. This more or less gives you a small little idea of what this does. Again, to wrap up, the main idea is you have a server and you have clients. The client is kind of smart enough to know how to do a little bit of its own routing. And here's that little magic though, is after we've connected to the server, we can ask the server to define its own tools. From defining its own tools, we can look and we can ask it the prompt question, pass it the query. But if that first LLM response says, oh, we do need to use tools, then that will be inside of the assistant message. And then we can grab all of the tools. I'm going to say we're going to loop through the tools such that we want to call it. We're going to define it. We're going to call the tool, get the result, append the result to our total message return of what we want to give back, because this is like one append. This is a second tool call append and a third tool call append. We add all of those together to the final response. Great. We're going to end it there because I don't want this to get too long, but hopefully this should encourage some ideas.